So, Kev, what the fuck did we
it's
just
not bad.
watch? Like, what did we just watch?
The Titans just kicked the field goal. It's 13-10. You
Oh,
were
is,
watching that too?
is that what you're watching right now? Yeah.
That's what I just watched.
I'm sorry. What did we just watch the Bears fucking do on the field? I shouldn't be swearing. I'm that pissed off
Oh.
against the Patriots. Like,
I don't know. We'll get into it. I'm not pissed off. I I lost the capacity to care a little while ago, and I'm seeing a lot of scorched earth type posts, and they're fine. They're they're warranted. I just don't have it in me.
yeah,
Like I
I
don't.
felt. Sorry, go on.
Do you not find it insane that I agreed to record after a Bears loss.
Oh, I already
I don't
knew.
do that. I don't do
Yeah,
that.
I already knew. Just anyone listening, after a bad loss, Kev doesn't want to talk about the Bears till like what, Tuesday? That's what we decide on. Is like this is why
No.
we don't. That's why we do our review and our preview at the same time, just to get enough space away from it.
The thing is, I don't really want to watch football right now. I don't want to do anything else. So at least we can divide our preview and review while it's still fresh in our minds. And yeah, I'm just numb right now. So I don't. Yeah, sure. Let's just talk about the game.
I was literally feeling exactly how you felt up until I started recording, and I'm like, I gotta talk about this game now, and I started talking about it, and I don't like. It's like an accept. I feel like I'm going through the stages of grief, right? Like you have to go through what's happening in the season. I don't know how we make the playoffs first and foremost after that game. It's so I'm
This
basically
game?
yeah, I'm basically grieving the season because first of all, even if there's mathematical chances, they're not they don't exist. Not with how with that offense versus any other defense. That was a 30th by DVOA 30th ranked defense in both categories, leading them to be 30th ranked flat out. And I mean, I posted it on Blue Sky. In EPA, like EPA per rush attempt, they're like 26 or something like that. They're in the mid 20s. They're terrible in pass success rate and in pass per attempt,
Yeah.
EPA per attempt. This isn't a team that you go out there and you play like that against. And I know that a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, are we regressing, or were these better defenses, and we just only were able to annihilate bad defenses?" Well, we just played a really bad defense and got annihilated ourselves.
Yeah. All right.
And
We'll get into that, but I want to say, I guess I want to say two things. The first thing is, and I guess we'll save this for Friday, but if we can beat the Packers, then we're back in business, right? I we're not making the playoffs regardless, but if we beat the Packers, then
how is that going to happen? Like, sure, yes, of course.
how have any of our four wins happened? Well, I mean, let's go back to
Well, two of them are against terrible teams, and I feel like we were in a rhythm in some sort.
The Jaguars are way better than the
They're
Patriots.
better than
I'll
the
say
Patriots,
that.
yes,
And we killed
but
them.
I think their defense was significantly worse at that point. I don't know what
It's
happened with the Vikings game today.
it's the same thing, and yeah, they held the Vikings to 4 field goals. They lost 12-7. I don't know.
And then, I mean, obviously the Panthers are the Panthers, who look like they're finding their stride while we're losing ours. As with the morning game, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's got to be regression at this point for these past two games. I don't want to say that the Hail Marys led to this because we didn't really have much offense throughout most of the Commanders game except for at the end. So what else could it be outside of? So really
I
quickly, the
don't know.
Titans game we
I
had no
don't know.
offense. The Titans game we
Yeah,
had no offense. So that explains that one. That was very much defensive, and Will Levis gifted.
yeah. My point is, we don't need to go into all four of the games. The point is, the Panthers game and the Jaguars game should not be possible. It should not be possible for the Bears to be able to do that and have us be feeling all good 4-2. And we've reached this low point. It doesn't make any sense. The only difference is that The only tangible personnel difference that matters is that we're missing our bookend tackles. And I got to say, gave up 9 sacks. I'm certainly not going to say the offensive line played well. They certainly played well enough in the first half, and we weren't doing anything in the first half.
Yeah, that I would agree with. I think Caleb took 2 sacks in the first half. I would probably put at least one of them, if not this. I put the second one on him. I don't know if I put the first one fully on him or not.
I
I think
can't
he was
remember if it
looking
was
at.
2 or 3. The 2 that I'm remembering, I
Yeah,
put fully on Caleb. Yeah.
yep. I think the first one even too, because I think the first one's when he's looking at his dump off and he's not setting it.
Yeah. So
Um,
let's. Do we want to get into particular plays, or what do we want to do? How? I've not. I don't. I've never. We've never done
the pep
directly
right
after
after
a game
this.
before.
I mean, I don't want to go into particular plays. I want to go into particular aspects. To be honest with you, like
All right, hit
let's
me
talk
with an
about Caleb
aspect.
first. Let's talk about Caleb first
That's a
and how
pretty
he
big
played.
aspect. That's a
I know
pretty big
it's
aspect.
why we got to start there. Because
Caleb,
I think this will bring up everything else.
extremely bad. Not almost nothing good I can say about the way that Caleb played.
He had
Um,
like a streak of good in the middle. I want to say of the between like the first and the second,
it
and
it
then
I
it
I don't even know if I'd
evaporated.
call it a streak. It was about 5 plays.
Yes, and then it
I
evaporated. But I
I
also
wrote
want to say that it evaporated after a couple of drops, and then I also felt like he was getting failed a little bit at that point as well. Does that make sense? So I'm like, this.
yeah.
The reason I bring this up is I'm worried about his confidence at a certain point.
So I wrote this down. This is his best stretch, and I was taking notes because I wanted to remain engaged in this game because I knew that there was going to be every opportunity for me to become completely disengaged, and it lasted me until the late third quarter. So kudos to me. But I wrote this down. Caleb has 11 yards right now. Really got to get him into a rhythm. 1st and 10, bootleg hits Roma Dunze. Big tight splits by the receiver. Odunze lined up very close in the slot. Sneaks in behind the offensive line. Little boot. Easiest completion you could possibly have. 11 yards. 1st and 10. Little out route to Keenan on a little stack. Moore kind of rubs the guy in front of Keenan. Keenan gets open on an out route. Another 11 yards or so. 1st and 10. False start on Pryor. Of course, good things were happening. 1st and 15. Weird long throw to no one. 2 receivers and 3 defenders in the area. Looked like Caleb maybe thought he had a free play.
This is the one where you and I were going back and forth. I couldn't tell because he says they do a hard count. He says go 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 after he sees. I'm looking at the linebackers as they're showing pressure. You said you saw somebody jump. I didn't see that because I was staring at the linebackers coming in. I was curious if he thought he was getting cover zero and full full pressure blitz, and he knew he had a one-on-one chance. Sees that he doesn't, and then just decided to throw it away,
I'm
essentially
not
by airmailing it.
I'm not totally sure what happened, but I think it was Sione Takitaki got up into the A gap, and it almost looked like Coleman Shelton jumped a little bit before he snapped the ball. No flags. I don't think Takitaki got into the neutral zone. My guess is Caleb just for a second thought he had a free play, which is why he might have had those guys going deep hot because they thought it was a free play. I don't know. But then at a certain point in the middle of his throwing motion, I feel like he's like, "Oh, I don't have a free play. I got
Yeah,
to throw this way the hell over everybody."
the way that he threw that ball, it's like he hesitated as he was coming around. He's like, I gotta launch this a little bit.
Anyway,
Um,
later on, we get a 3rd and 4, just absolute awful throw to a wide open DJ Moore. But on 4th and 4, Caleb does a good job. They run mesh or some semblance of mesh on 4th down for one of, I believe, 2 times this entire fucking game. But DJ's the drag that he's trying to hit, but there's a little rat guy that pops into his field of view. So Caleb scrambles forward for 5-6 yards on 4th and 4. Good job. Later in the drive, 1st and 10, 1 yard loss, run by Swift. Patriots got good penetration. 2nd and 11, 1 yard run by Swift. 3rd and 10, and on 3rd and 10, we're in the, I think, the high red zone, and Caleb, good job with the internal clock going off. A big issue earlier in the game.
Mhm.
Buys time, rolls right, nothing's there, throws it away, field goal. The only time we score that this entire game. Oh, and somewhere in there was also a nice little 12-yard slant where Keenan, a couple plays where Caleb starts left and ends up right. The type of thing that you like to see out of your rookie quarterback. Just I just clinging to the night to the very few good things. But he looked left, comes back right, has Keenan coming back on a little slant. That was the only good stretch of plays, though. There's nothing else good I could say about Caleb. And that's not to say that there is not every reason in the world that Caleb played poorly. Lots of blame to go around, but he himself, he's got to be better. I can rant all day, but I haven't let you talk in a while.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. That was fantastic. Here's the thing, like, even in the beginning of the game, like, I feel like when he's not in a rhythm, he was making mostly right decisions on a lot of stuff where it's like nothing is there, but this is where I think both of our frustrations come in, where it's like if nothing
Yeah.
is there, you've got an internal clock that should be going off. At USC, he understood and he felt pressure so well. Earlier this season, I felt like, especially in that middle stretch, he was feeling pressure much better. It's been like the last 3 games we've gone from Caleb's kind of feeling it to even the Commanders game, I felt like he was feeling pressure pretty well. The last 2 games, I feel like it's not even just the field pressure. I should actually clarify, because I'm not talking about like what I'm specifically coming at is that internal clock as he's going through his progressions. You're on your 3rd read at this
Yeah,
point. You
it
need
doesn't
to
really
know,
matter
like,
whether or
go.
not you could be wrong about whether
Yeah,
pressure's there, but 3 seconds have passed. You have
yeah.
got to go. You've
You have
got
to
to go.
go. It's flashes of Justin Fields here, in which there were times where Fields, and I will say this, on those couple plays, nobody was open, right? We had they went over them, marking it off. I actually think the color commentary typically pretty terrible, but this time did a
Moose
pretty good
Johnson
job.
himself, typically, I do not enjoy him.
Yeah,
Today, he was all over it.
yeah.
I liked what Moose had to say.
And so at least in these examples, nobody's streaking in wide open and there's complete indecision, right? But you have to realize, hey, I've got an internal clock. I got to go. Is that internal clock broken, or are you forcing yourself to sit there and try to play from the pocket? In which case, dude, if you're at a point where because I think on one of the sacks again, he was on his dump off and he was just staring at it, not taking it, but also not moving. At that point, I can't say that you're just sitting there and trying to play from the pocket, because there's nothing else to play once you get through your reads. And the fact that you had enough time to get through your reads before the pressure got there, that's not on the line. That is an
And it's
internal clock issue.
I can't tell because again later on, especially during the sequence that I pointed out, the internal clock is working. On 4th and 4, he knows it is time to go, and he gets it. And on that 3rd down throwaway, he knows it's time to get out of the pocket and try to create something. And I think what actually ends up happening on that 3rd and 10 play is he tries to do the throwing across his body. Like, he doesn't throw it away, but he kind of just dirts it. And it was like, I think it was another like halfway through the throwing motion. It's like, I can't be throwing this. And it just goes into the dirt instead of to a player, which was probably for the best. It feels to me like it could be a coaching point, and a really bad one, because
I hate it. If it is a coaching point, it's a coaching point I hate.
It,
And
it's
so
it's it, he's either neutering himself, because again the playmaking ability is special. We know it is. It hasn't been on display all the time, but we know it's always there. And if it's being coached out of him in any way, that's bad.
so
And the other the other thing I want to say, the other thing that seems to be being coached out of him is just any sort of risk taking whatsoever.
that comes back to that first point, though, is because I think that first point comes in with the risk taking, right? A couple weeks ago, we were talking about this. I think I responded to one of your threads, bringing up this press conference. It was earlier on. I think it was after the Colts game, where he's like, "I need to limit my negatives, because if I know I can limit my negatives, our defense is good enough that we will win the game, and I want to do what's right to win the game."
Yeah.
And that is a quarterback telling me in week 3 as a rookie, when he's not at a point probably developed enough to be able to handle different types of play styles, right? Because he hasn't learned how to become a pocket passer. I mean, he can do it in college, but I'm talking about NFL concepts where rhythm is much more important. where you've got different kinds of coverages that you need to build you need to build the Rolodex seeing. He hasn't set himself, like, that's not set up yet. We still need to set the foundation. Let's talk about a little bit about Drake May and Jaden Daniels. What makes them, why are they doing so well? And I think I posted about this with Drake May. It's they're still playing, so they're obviously attempting to play within the structure of their offense, but
Yeah.
they're not limiting themselves based off of, well, if I try to, if I try to create and be the playmaker that I always was, right?
Yeah.
If I try to do that, I might mess up, and that will lead to a turnover, which will lead to our team losing. So instead of doing that, I'm going to decide not to. We saw
Yeah.
Drake May. You mentioned this in your post. We saw Drake May throw a horrendous interception.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on my skeet here because it's my skeet. I think we call
Is
them
that what they're
skeets
called?
now.
Skeets?
I think so.
Skeets
I'm
or
not gonna
skeets?
say. I'm not actually gonna say that. That's ridiculous. Blue sky, great, but we gotta improve skeet. That's not happening. But yeah, I said. So two rookie quarterbacks are playing. Drake May uh, threw an absolute hideous interception. Throughout the game, I would say that Drake May had no less than 3 turnover worthy plays. Anybody who's watching that game could tell that Drake May was by far the better quarterback in that game, regardless. And his team moved the ball and scored some points against a pretty good defense. Ours scored 3 points against a really bad defense. I think it should be very instructive that something as hideous as that Drake May interception to TJ Edwards can happen, and it still be very, very clear who the better quarterback was. I think it says it all about Caleb's risk reward calculator is way off in his mind right now.
The big thing here is, like, so people talk about like Josh Allen, big yellow ball, everything like that. The big thing is like taking a sack. So when you put yourself in a position to take a sack, when you decide to take a while, when you are hesitant with you, and if you end up being hesitant with your decisions, that's going to put you in a decision to take a sack. So if you don't just trust your eyes and rip it, and you're sitting there and you're saying, I might. So let's two things here: the playmaking as well as the decision making to just rip the ball. Just take a shot. Austin Hooper. There's a throw to Austin Hooper over Kyler Gordon. Gordon's completely on him. May says, well, I got Austin Hooper there anyway. Let me just give him a chance. I'll throw it above him. He goes up, and obviously a DB on a tight end. That's what's going to happen. But there are probably opportunities like 50-50 ball opportunities that we're not taking very often, for instance. So coming to that, if you decide that you see if you decide that you see you're within your progression, you're not sure you should take this throw, right? That's going to lead to, and I think this is what's leading to him being so off target, because it leads to hesitation. Your brain is now stopping you and pausing you within your mechanics.
Yeah.
We see him rip that ball to Keenan Allen in a tight window. Why? He's made that throw so many times. He's confident in it. He sees it. He rips it. That was an amazing throw.
Uh-huh.
The moment that he starts to hesitate between it, I feel like is when we start to see issues there. Then you go to the creation aspect of it and not wanting to say, like the Texans game, he had the 2 interceptions, right? The thing is, like, interceptions are super volatile, as we all know. Drake May had 3 turnover-worthy plays at least, right? And we only came away with the 1 interception.
3 I can think of. Two dropped interceptions. I'm gonna say Byard had one on the one-on-one ball deep, and then Hicks had one in the end zone where it was 13-3, and they ended up kicking a field goal.
So when you decide to pass up on throws, or decide to hesitate on throws, or decide to hesitate on creating because you're not sure if this is a situation, because you want to limit turnovers because we have a good defense, and if we don't turn the ball over, right? What you're doing instead is sitting in a pocket for longer than you should, especially if you don't throw it away. Sitting in a pocket longer than you should, and sacks are not a thing that are they're volatile for defensive pass rushers, because if you get a pressure, you might not get it. But on the quarterback side, he is fully responsible for the sacks that are on him. And when you put yourself in that situation, it is extremely difficult to not get sacks.
Yeah,
Whereas
so
it's not as difficult to not give up an interception when you put the ball in harm's way.
right. So obviously, an interception
is
an interception is a drive killer. Just by definition, your drive is over once you've thrown an interception. A sack is not quite a drive killer, because your drive might still be happening, but it is basically a drive killer. But I think what you were kind of getting at is if you throw a ball that could be intercepted, that ball might not be intercepted still. Your receiver might help you out. The DB might drop it. Your throw
DJ
might be
Stroud's
off.
turnover
Your
worthy
throw
of
might
luck
be out.
last year. Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
your throw might be off target and nobody can catch it. You can make the bad decision, and it's probably going to be better than taking the sack, which is for sure going to happen. It's the given in this scenario. And then just throwing the ball.
CJ Stroud's turnover worthy play rate was about the same as Josh Allen's last year. I think it was off by like maybe 0.1 or 0.2%. Josh Allen threw significantly more interceptions, specifically he was really unlucky on a lot of them. Some of them weren't even the ones that were like the turnover worthy throws. And CJ Stroud got away with it, and people tend to get away with some really bad turnover worthy. Luck breaks your way quite often with some of these. But sitting there instead of just taking that risk or even trying to create, right? Because you're trying to fit a mold and you're worried that if you break out of that mold that's not. See, this is where I'm like, is that also because he's trying to limit bad plays? Because he's worried if he's going to create, he's going to take a sack, which then leads to a sack. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Maybe
Because the play
I know,
creation aspect of it,
I
I
know.
don't get.
Eberflus also says don't take sacks. That's the coaching point that he gave Justin Fields last year: no sacks, no turnovers, and whatever else. He knows. He's not trying to take any negatives. It just
I feel like he's playing
obviously,
tight. This is where I'm
yeah,
coming to. He's playing tight, and when you play tight, you don't play. When you don't play free, right? And you just don't, and you have to think while you're playing. And again, it was something we saw with Fields. When you don't play free, you're not going to play well, especially at quarterback.
yeah.
I just
You said that he's encountering situations where he's not quite sure if he should throw it. And he's pulling it back, and that's leading to
or he's
hesitancy,
hesitating.
all sorts of things. I'll say this: here's the thing that sucks. He's not going to get this coaching point that I think he needs. If you're not sure, throw it.
Yeah, I agree.
The worst thing that can happen is interceptions, and as you mature, you'll see it again, and you'll instinctively know not to throw it the next time. But if you think if your first instinct is throw it.
The thing is, it's so much harder to teach a quarterback to be more risk taking than it is to be more risk adverse as you continue to go through. It's easier to say, okay, this is what you missed, right? We can continue to fix that as you make that mistake. Now you'll see it. Maybe you'll be more sure the next time. However, and obviously I'm not talking like going Will Levis off the deep end or like yeah, for like I'm saying forget it. However, when you're Derek Carr, right? Or Bryce Young recently, who was taking a ton of sacks because he wasn't throwing it, right? Because him not being able to see it all.
I'll even say Aaron Rodgers. We could say that Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback like this.
And he's really playing towards it at this moment with the Jets. Yeah. When you play like that, it becomes incredibly difficult to tell you, take the chance. Just take it. It's okay. Like, you're right. You should be throwing that. How do I get you to see that you were right there? Because you'll see it again and you will still be hesitant. It's easier to learn from mistakes than it is to learn from non-attempts, non-throws. Because when you're right and you decide not to do it, you can't really tell what you weren't seeing. And most people who are risk adverse, most quarterbacks that are risk adverse continue to stay risk adverse. And I don't want him to learn that mentality. He wasn't risk adverse at USC.
Yeah, so that's why that's where we come to our next point. I think we've said enough about Caleb in general. It comes to the next point, though. The constant is the coaching. And the constant through these two quarterbacks has not been the offensive coordinator. It has been Matt Eberflus. We already know the types of things that Matt Eberflus has to say. Oh, can I double back really quick?
Yeah.
I know if I don't make mistakes, my defense is going to help win the game. Your defense could also help overcome the fucking mistakes, by the way.
Yes.
If the defense is so good, they'll maybe stop. They'll maybe you throw a terrible red zone or a touchdown in your own territory, and they're already in field goal range. Well, the defense is probably going to stop and hold them to 3, and it's going to be okay. Just want to throw that out there.
You're supposed to learn from them. So everyone talks about Peyton Manning and his terrible rookie year. That terrible rookie year was Peyton Manning learning what he can and cannot do. It was also him understanding, like, that was the wrong decision. Oh, that's why that was the wrong decision. He learned from that rookie year.
Also, I don't know if it was kind of a good rookie year. He threw 26 touchdown passes, and
because he was also he was playing
football.
It's better to play a volatile style of football than it is to play a non-decisive style of football, in my opinion. But continue. Yeah. And I think that's. I mean, he was living a little bit on volatility there.
Yeah. I forgot the rest of those. I guess we just come to. So I don't think Eberflus is going to be fired after this game. If it's going to happen, it is going to happen now. Otherwise, it's not going to happen until the rest of the season. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think everybody on Blue Sky that I could see seems to very much want it to happen, to the point where I don't really see any posts about much of anything else. Do you want them to fire Eberflus?
Not right after this game. I want him to handle Waldron, right? And figure out what he can first on the offense. And at the end of the season, yeah, probably, to be honest with you. It's really hard for me to say.
That just got to be a given at this point. It's do you want him fired right now?
I just don't want, because here's the thing. So, like, firing Robert Saleh, for instance, as the Jets doesn't really buy you all that much with your defense, right? Or with anybody else. Our defense is playing perfectly fine. If we want to be able to salvage the season, you're better off trying to figure out what you can do, because I feel like it's the offense that is really struggling. And I shouldn't say our defense is playing perfectly fine. There are some criticisms there. We'll talk about that when we do. Go out and see if you can figure out how to fix the offense. Waldron cannot, so during the press conference, Flus was pressed a lot about Waldron and play calling, and it sounds like that's on the table. It even sounded like before he was asked about would you consider changing play calling, he was also actually asked, I think right before it, would you consider a new offensive coordinator? And even that, right after that, he said, everything's on the table.
Yeah, so, I think it sounds like Thomas Brown is probably going to, at the very least, be calling plays next week. I mean, who cares? It's somebody else. I'm good with it. Whatever.
And then on top of that, too, so I was listening to CHGO right before we got on here, and Nicholas Moriano went into the locker room to obviously do like the player interviews and stuff like that. Nobody, according to him, not a lot of players stayed back. Like even Jalen Johnson, left early, which is not something that is normal for him. So you can kind of tell. I think the players were basically being like, "We don't want to deal with the media right now. We know exactly what we're going to be asked. Let's get the hell out of here. We don't want to deal with this." But he took that opportunity then to go into the Patriots locker room, because if there's nobody in the Bears locker room, let's talk to the Patriots players and see what they thought of what they were planning and what they saw and what they thought about facing the offense. And I don't remember who he asked, but he basically asked a couple players, were there any tendencies you saw on film that helped you in this game? He's like, oh yeah, our coaches saw it, especially on third down, when you see certain personnel, et cetera, et cetera. When you see certain things, certain personnel lined up in certain places, we kind of know what they're going to do. And so that allowed us to play fast and their coaches put us in a position to succeed and play fast. So on the note of play calling and hopefully getting somebody else in there are tendencies that might have been put on film during those games that we were doing well, that Waldron just doesn't seem to want to shake and realize that he needs to switch it up a little bit. That could possibly be a factor, especially since and they specifically set third down, and I don't think we converted a single third down.
I think we converted one.
Okay.
Late in the I want to say in the fourth quarter. I want to say we got one.
Yeah, it was about the time I was just posting on Blue Sky and looking up at the game. Like I don't know if we have much of a chance. So hopefully that does lead to some improvement. I just don't know how much it's going to be. This is still the same staff. I really want them to just bring in an outside voice. Like, just Bring in a senior analyst. Bring in anyone who can come in here and be like, "Hey, look, I see that you guys are thinking this way, but you guys do realize the reason why thinking this way might be wrong."
Yeah, and I'm not gonna make the same joke I've made twice now. But I don't. I mean, who the hell? Who is that person? I don't know. I mean, the Vegas is using Norv Turner as their senior analyst right now. That ain't bad. I mean, is Bruce
Just
Arians
anyone.
alive? Is Bruce Arians alive?
KPA's alive, dude, isn't he?
I think.
I would.
What's he? Where is he? What's he doing? I don't know. I didn't
Uh,
want to suggest Bruce Arians if he was dead and I
pretty
missed it,
sure
but
he was. He's been like around like Tampa Bay. Still at least when what's his name took over, he's just been still hanging out over there.
could Bruce Arians be convinced to like,
Get
hey
some
man,
VA, get some no risk, no biscuit. I'd love that.
because my God, Bruce Arians is exactly what we need. Hell,
Although I won't lie, no,
this is people are going to be really mad about this one, but I stand by. He was perfectly fine. In fact, I thought he was good. Can we dig up Mike Martz?
no. I don't know if that.
Yeah. How is that?
Should,
How would that not be good?
I mean, it's probably a good offense for Caleb. We
Yeah.
didn't talk about the fact that we gotta stop. We might need to stop calling play action. He doesn't. So there are a couple times where the play action dropbacks, specifically, not talking about like rollouts. There were a couple times where obviously everyone was covered. We got those pointed out. But there are also a couple times where people streak open. And that's been an issue so consistent in which he's not taking the shot play. We have a play action shot play, and you're not taking the shot that's there.
It was basically the same play twice that we're referring to. It was on the first drive, the first sack of the game that he took, and then a little later in the second in the first half, probably later second quarter. But it is 21 personnel. I think on both plays, Gerald Everett comes across on a what do you call it? You're faking the split zone, faking the split zone, but Everett's coming to block somebody over on this side.
Mhm.
Caleb turns around. Allen is running some sort of like
Easily
wiggly little
crosser,
post that seems like but it seems like he ultimately sits down.
because I thought it was like, man, but go on. I didn't. We
Uh,
got to see the tape. Go on.
I don't know. And then the first time I think DJ seemed to be running like a deep comeback. It looked like it was like a PA waggle type concept. And then the second time it seems like maybe he comes towards the center and then comes back out like a corner route, but you're creating the angle yourself, like you're the slant and then the corner. Um, Certainly on that second one, DJ is wide open. Probably also on the first one, DJ was about to be open if Caleb had thrown it with some anticipation. Uh, but yeah, once Caleb's head turns from the defense and then back around, he doesn't look like he has any idea what he's looking at, and
He was.
that is not uncommon, but is detrimental to an offense that needs some easy answers, and that's kind of off the table.
Yep. That is one of your biggest easy buttons. It's not uncommon though, and there are a lot of great quarterbacks that don't like doing that. I mean, we we've talked about it before.
Rodgers is the biggest example of he
Yep.
just does not want to turn his head to the defense.
Yep.
The
Peyton
thing
Manning
is
didn't like doing it.
when nobody's getting open and you're not on the same page, so you don't even really trust what is maybe open that doesn't look open, like the one-on-one balls. It's like I don't really care that Caleb has his head looking towards the offense because nobody's getting open. I like so Rodgers in his prime, the receivers were not streaking open, but he was throwing a perfect back shoulder that nobody was going to catch besides the receiver. And he was so on the same page with that receiver that it was a completion almost every time. Caleb doesn't have that. It's not in his tool bag yet. He has the ability to read the defense when he's looking at it, but he doesn't have that. So now we have to find a different easy button. The easy button of play action throw is not there. It's just like that we're eliminating so
We
many
need to have a
things, and that's how things. It turns out every single thing that we try is so hard.
we need to have a grown-up pass offense. That's the issue. Grown-up passing concepts that aren't play action. You mentioned the reason I actually brought it up. I wasn't sure if I was going to bring that point up or not. You mentioned North Turner. That would probably fit better. Um, his offense would probably fit this a lot better than the current style of offense we're running, because this offense, obviously Waldron runs a mixed bag of stuff. I know a lot of people say that he plays the hits a lot, right, from the Shanny tree, but it's not all completely.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know if
also
this offense
when he
fits.
can't, the other thing is what differentiates Waldron is just he doesn't have the answers when things are going wrong. The answers
No, and
become worse.
the run game does not win even when the offensive line isn't all that great. Whereas every single other Shanny disciple, look at the offensive line on a lot of those teams, they're not very good. Um, anyway, so I don't know with the system that we have and the answers that we have and the answers that they want to go to, because I'm sure a lot of these things are still installed, right? The answers that we want to go to, I don't know if those are going to be the answers that the people on staff there are gonna find. I kind of want to bring somebody in who has more of just give me a different set of ideas, a different set of philosophy than this.
I
Bring in
mean,
some
that's why
ideas.
people are going to immediately say I'm an idiot if they watch this and me bringing up Martz, and I'm half kidding. He's an old guy. I mean, he's not going to do anything. But I need that mindset in the room because it's not there. The mindset of just throw the fucking ball. I don't care. Throw the fucking ball. If it's not open and somebody intercepts it, I'm not mad at you. Throw the fucking ball. That's what Mart says.
And BA is a little bit like that too. They both run a lot
He's very
more.
much like that.
Yeah,
They're both. I mean,
they're both pure dropback.
Eric Coryell is a little bit of a relic, but they're both Eric Coryell guys. Is the
Yeah.
best way I can describe it. And we need some Eric Coryell in here
Yes.
because this is not working.
No.
So
Uh
actually, no, I'm going to go back. That is not half joking. If Mike Martz was hired as an analyst for the next 9 games, I'd be very happy. It doesn't mean he has to be in charge. Doesn't mean that he has to force nine-step drops with this terrible offensive line. But I want the voice in the room that is telling Caleb it is okay to throw an interception. That's what I need. It's not there. That voice does not exist. So to answer my own original question, do I want Eberflus fired? Kind of, but I don't think there's any alternative. The alternative will be Richard Hightower or Chris Morgan is the head coach. And what the hell does that do for us?
Nothing. And I truly think he's just
At least Eberflus keeps the defense on track. And it doesn't really matter for the rest of the season. I don't know. I'll say this. If I were sure that Eberflus was the voice in Caleb's head that is causing him to play this style, I would say, yeah, can him right now.
years ago. Yeah.
But I don't know for sure. I think there are a lot of voices that are in Caleb's head telling him the same thing. And in that case, I say it's pretty rare that a coaching change midseason fixes anything. And honestly, I'd rather Caleb just deal with this one voice for the rest of this season than have to deal with another voice and then have that guy fired and then have to finally, let's say we get the coaching hire right. Well, he's already had to deal with 2 different head coaches in his rookie season. And now here's the third guy. Let's just, I still say, finish this out, start the slate clean next season. And it is probably a discussion. I don't know if we want to have it now about who the next head coach should be, because I think we're both a little worried about Ben Johnson, everybody's favorite. But yeah, I think that's probably my answer. I know the gut instinct and just like accountability. Almost, you're like you want Flus to be fired. He deserves it, but I just don't think that's. I doubt that's best for us right
I
now.
don't think it's best in the middle of the season unless again that point is true. And he's the voice, he is the major voice in Caleb's head that's maybe changing up the way that he's playing, because you don't want to neuter your playmakers and take away what makes them special when you draft them. And basically what everything that we argued about was doing that. I do
Yeah,
think you need to obviously do something on the offensive side. Fire Waldron, if not fire Waldron, switch play callers, bring in somebody, please. I want to keep pushing that, but I don't know if it will happen. I want it though, because I don't think they have the ideas over there, because they would have helped out already and things would have switched a little bit at least over the last 3 games.
yeah.
And then Yeah, I
I don't
mean
know.
that's it. And then
Also Thomas
I
Brown is
want to
just
come I want to come back to the point that you did make though. Is Flus the actual voice of the head or not? I do have my doubts, or at least he might be one of many, like you said, specifically because of the three quarterbacks coming in, who was the one that everyone wanted to talk about, needed to play in structure, like needed to learn to play in structure, needed to learn to not be so risky, needed to learn to trust his team around him. Oh, you've got all these things, so make sure. Like it was a
So you think it's
central
external
point.
voices as well?
Well, I don't know if the external voices then lead to the internal voices, but on top of the coaching, right? And
Could be.
that leads to his mindset and how he plays. Because I do think there's still some of this. I think that this is a mindset that Caleb willingly adopted, at least at the beginning, and I don't know how it's looking now. I don't think this is a mindset that's like, oh no, I'm being told and forced to do this, because he hadn't made enough mistakes at that point as a rookie to need to be forced to do it. Say like 3 years in, Justin Fields saying whatever this, no turnovers, no sacks, whatever. You good?
Arizona's up 31-6.
Jets are so
This
bad.
this brings me to my previous point from last podcast. It is okay to have lost by 20 to the Cardinals. It happens. Happens to Hall of Fame quarterbacks sometimes. This loss was not okay. This is
This loss is
when
not good.
I don't use the word unacceptable. I don't use that word. I find people who use it to be a little.
I
I'm
want
not
to be
going to say
clear
it.
here. It's not okay
But
to do what
but
Aaron Rodgers is doing.
this one was unacceptable. This one was totally unacceptable. There's no explanation for it. We're being a little like we're trying to break it down, but like we don't know. Like this defies logic. This doesn't happen to teams. There's no way you can score 3 points against it doesn't make any sense to me.
I want to be clear here. I do think that on the last episode too, I said I'm okay with the defense and losing to them by that, but for the defensive reasons, I'm still not okay with what Rodgers is doing. I don't think is acceptable. Even, yes, it happens.
No,
So
but I'm
now
saying
I guess
what
Caleb
I
looked
was
at it,
saying is it does
but
happen.
it
That
does happen.
happens, but now this has happened 3 weeks in a row and it's gotten worse every week.
That's the issue, and so now it goes from one bad game to, and for the Jets, it's also been a trend. It's gone from one bad game to holy cow, this is really bad. This is a trend, and it's showing regression. The other thing too, we talked about, the Commanders and the Cardinals having a slightly better defense than the other ones, and then the Patriots being at that level. Like this is obviously, if we were able to do it with those guys, it's a sign of regression. It can't be anything else than other than that. And the regression might be your tendencies are way too easy to pick apart, and you're not learning how to get off of them, like the Patriots players mentioned. But it could also be a whole bunch of other stuff. It feels like let's talk about our weapons and some of the concentration drops. I do feel bad for DJ Moore because easy miss on that out route for that first down. Man,
Yeah.
don't like seeing that with all the current focus on them too. But I think you said I had missed the first drive in the second half because Sophia didn't tell me it started up again. I was running
Yeah,
some errands.
DJ had a one-on-one. It was very clear pre-snap that the ball should be going to DJ, and DJ ran a nice let's call it 8 or 9 yard hitch, and then broke a tackle and probably gained 13, 14 total yards. It was nice to see. And then the next play I think was that play action that we already talked about, where DJ looked like he had gotten wide open
Yeah,
again, and Caleb just wasn't looking at him.
which is why I bring it up. Because I'm like, okay, DJ's probably really frustrated at this point. However, let's talk about the Keenan Allen. So I went from massive drops. On top of it, people just there is a failure to, and it could be scheme again. It could be the play calling. It could be the tendencies. But if they should be winning. Like at a certain point, X's and O's, it's also about Jimmy and Joe's. There were a lot of points in which we saw nobody's open downfield. When we were allowed to see, like obviously when they gave us a replay, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I know we've been harping on Caleb. Basically all I want to say is I know we've been harping on Caleb, but it's everything. And I would say in the first half, it was a lot. It was partially Caleb, partially Waldron, partially the weapons, right? Like it was all over the place. And then in the second half, it really became some of the offensive line's fault. I had said it on Blue Sky, and it's because of this that offense is just hard. Every part of offense is hard for this team because
Yeah.
no matter what, if one person's actually doing their job right, one person, Waldron calls a wide open shot play, it's not being taken. Caleb sees a perfect throw, it's getting dropped. Right? Like, they just something goes wrong. We have somebody open. Caleb's about to pull the trigger perfectly. He's got pressure in his face. Like somebody messes up in the run game. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Somebody keeps messing up. So I know that we're harping on Caleb. There's blame to go all around.
The run
And I
game
want to make sure that's clear.
is so frustrating. I mean, we haven't had a very nice thing to say about Swift all season. Today it's frustrating because you'll get the what's the word, the offensive success rate where get 5 yards on first down. We got a lot of that, but then we get the 3 yard loss because Swift didn't take the toss play around the left tackle. He cut it inside, or there's another wide zone where same thing. He's just got to settle for the 1 yard. Instead, he cuts it back, and it's a 3 yard loss. And these things are happening on 1st and 10. They're happening on 2nd and 4, and now it's 3rd and 7, and we suck at 3rd and 7. It's every aspect of it. Like there's just when the run game works, it works about half the time, but that's not good enough. Like it has to work. It has to not completely fail. 0% of the time can it be an abject disaster, but it's an abject disaster like 25% of the time because Swift does something fucking weird, or the draw play, the Coleman Shelton can't find work. Like, bro, you know what to do.
Coleman Shelton, I think either was they had mentioned that it looks like he's still looking for help. I don't think you ever really put Coleman Shelton, your center, in a one-on-one situation.
I don't remember which.
So,
I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember exactly who was to blame there. I know that a guy was in the backfield and he should have been in the backfield.
Well, Shelton got beat, but there might have been he might have been looking for a little bit of help there that he didn't have. There's also aspects of it where like the run plays there and then the RPO. So there's that bubble screen. Caleb said it during his press conference. He should have handed it off. That was an RPO when he threw the bubble to DJ Moore and they just blew it up in the back. So like there's so many aspects in the run game that are breaking. But I also think that we're running there are times where we're running so there was a beautiful we were talking about the split action, right? The split flow inside zone action that you saw off the PA. We ran split flow inside zone beautifully today. And on top of that, another run play that works kind of similar to split flow inside zone is duo, but duo is going to be attacking more vertically and you're working off your doubles to work up, where split flow is a little bit more of a reach, but you're still trying to attack it in the same way. So those seem to be great. DeAndre Swift seems to do significantly better off of anything power and inside.
Yeah, he had one nice carry on a wide zone, I want to say, but it is the zone ones that when there is a disaster, it is a zone where he is not reading his blockers, which makes sense because we know he cannot read his blockers. And a zone run does require you to be in sync with what your blockers are doing.
And even with I would also argue even with normal inside zone, since that is going to be read out a little bit different than say like split flow.
Yeah.
I'd power like a little bit more like GT power counters, anything like that. I think would be. I don't know why we haven't leaned into it more. It's actually something Getsy leaned into a good bit that I enjoyed seeing. Not to give him any credit, it's something that helped a lot in today's NFL as we're slowly evolving back as teams are trying to figure out how to steal gaps in the run game. I don't understand why it feels like we get away from those concepts, or we're not installing even more concepts like that to allow us to have different looks. Because obviously you don't want to keep running the same play each time. And that's the frustrating part. Obviously, we don't need to talk about Swift, but that's the frustrating part because we don't have a reliable enough run game. Like again, like we had a spurt of it and then it just went away. And there were those negatives. It's that frustration. And they're drive killers as well at that point. Like when you're running second down, you're losing 3 yards, and you're putting yourself at third and long, and anything's already very difficult. It's hard. It's like losing 3 yards on a run is almost as bad as a sack, right? Because you're losing like 5 or 6. It's a really bad sack. I don't know. Someone needs to come in and just, because I feel like the answers are there, right? It's just that they're not taking those answers.
Yeah, that's what sucks is like we're sitting here and I think we non-football know, I mean, we're two dumbasses, but we have answers. We're pretty sure those answers would work.
And we talked about short, quick game.
But the thing is, when we make our little predictions, when I say Bears 23 to 16, then I wake up this morning and I say, well, why the hell why in my prediction am I baking in that Waldron's going to do the correct thing? And I started feeling way, way worse about the Bears' ability to score 23 points. And I should have just changed the prediction. I stuck with it. But I was like, how the hell are we going to score 23 points? They're not going to listen to us. No, nobody's going to listen to us, first of all, but certainly not the Bears coaching staff.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could be wrong. I'm throwing that out there, but just also mentioning a lot of the things that we're talking about, and I think other people are mentioning this too. A lot of
I'm
things
not wrong. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of the things that we're talking about, again, adding a more quick game to replace the run because it seems to work very well, right?
Yes.
That's worked when we've done it. When we've gone scat protection, when we've got 5 out, that has worked for the most part when we've used it. I
Also,
would say
Caleb's internal clock is good in quick game. That's another aspect of it. Because Caleb knows if it's not there immediately, then I do have to run. There is no other well, I'll wait and see if this breaks open because it's done. He runs. That's what we need.
When you're in scat protection, it better be like.
The other thing that I'm not wrong about, because it worked twice today, is either mesh concept or just something involving a shallow cross or drag of some sort. The first time they ran something similar to that, it was covered well, and Caleb knew to run, and he picked up a first down. The second time was also on 4th down, and he hit Roma Dunze for a first down. They do not run draggers or crossers enough. They need to do it more often. I am right about this. There's no way that I'm wrong about it. I'm sorry. It just is true.
And I actually think this is part of the reason why we're not seeing a lot of like Cole Kmet, because guess one person would be running it as Cole. You'd see a lot more Rome probably running some of these routes too. Rome has ran those routes and they've worked. The throw to it was more of a skinny post, but that throw to Keenan Allen that he was a little late on. Had he been on time last week during the game last week, that would have been an explosive. Like I also think we need to be running some more. I don't know about this. Like I know we go a little bit too much on the what's it called? We're going way too much on the slot fades and the outside fades as well. But like give me some four verts, because I think we need to attack the seams a little bit more, which we don't do, and we've seen some success there. It also depends on the coverage, obviously. Like 4 verts don't run that against like cover 2, but if it's like cover 4 or if it's man or cover 3, great, do it. I don't know.
No, I do want to point out. It
doesn't feel like there's a grown-up pass game. That's all I'm saying.
I do want to point out really quick because you mentioned Kmet, and there was that little pocket of time where Caleb, they talked about how they hadn't been targeting Kmet, and then he targeted him 3 plays in a row, and then Kmet went and sat down, and that was kind of funny to me.
He did win on a whip route. Did you see that? He won I swear it was a whip route.
Oh, the whip route. Yeah.
I was shocked. Tight ends don't run. Tight ends do not run whip routes.
Caleb was looking left, came back right in time for Kmet to win on the whip route. That was nice.
That was nice. I was shocked. That's not a tight end route. That was amazing.
I also want to say they ran a little stick concept where I think Cole maybe has the option to sit, or if you get man, you run an out route. He ran an out route. It is one of the worst out routes I've ever seen in my life, and I'm glad on the broadcast Moose dunks on Cole a little bit, because for as much as we'd like to get Cole involved, Cole has his limits. That was real bad.
which is part of the reason why I was shocked that they ran that whip route, because that's not something I've seen. He's fast, he's not quick. That's a I'm not gonna, Darnell Mooney ran it in that overtime against the Commies that we lost, and he won on it. It was just ball was up high, and he anyway. That's a route for somebody like that. It's a route for like Tank Dell, right? Not Cole Kmet.
Yeah, I mean, Trey McBride can win on a whip route all day, but not Cole Kmet.
Yeah. But there are others. I mean, like Mills. Throw a little bit of Mills in there, right? I think we've seen a good bit of cover two. If we're seeing cover two, run some flood. Have we seen a lot of flood? Have we seen flood at all? Have I seen a single time where we've seen a?
Can you define any of our passing concepts? What do we do? It's all vertical, or it's all vertical down the sidelines. If that shot's there, and otherwise it's like little check downy stuff. There's no route like these are, if you don't know what flood is or you don't know what Mills is, that is fine. But the point is, we're two dumbasses that just know the names of route concepts because they're famous route concepts, and they're not running them. They're running like totally unidentifiable shit to us.
It's
It's
wild.
weird.
It's wild. Because no, that's the thing though, is like, because I wouldn't, if I saw flood, if I see Mills, I can identify Mills on the broadcast. I can identify flood on a broadcast view. It's really not that hard, because Mills, obviously you're seeing the draggers. That's the moment you see that, you can kind of get an idea of where everybody else is on the replay on the throw. On flood, you're literally sending three guys to one side because you're trying to overload cover two, right?
Yep.
Easy to see. And then on Mills, you gotta dig. The moment you see that dig, and the moment you see that post behind the dig, whichever one to throw, you're gonna see it.
Selfishly, and I would say this
haven't seen any of these.
I would say this for Fields as well. I've been waiting. I think this is year 4 of me screaming more Mills, because another thing is, and maybe this doesn't work with the mindset that we're in. Mills can be a little dangerous because it is throwing to the part of the field that is most likely to have traffic, especially if you don't read it out correctly.
Also depends on the coverages you're
But
getting. Right?
I want him to challenge that part of the field, because if you don't challenge that part of the field, the defenses have to respect that part of the field. And he's willing to throw to the middle of the field. He was in college. That's why we ultimately were like, yeah, there are some things Caleb does negatively that Justin Fields also did. But one thing that Caleb will do is he will throw and he will challenge the middle of the field. And that was a huge differentiator. But he's not doing it. I don't even see the routes that are allowing him to do it, such as Mills.
The one thing that I will say is, if we are seeing, I got to look at the coverages we're seeing mostly, because if we're seeing a lot of cover 1, cover 3, Mills is not going to be a cover 1 or cover 3 beater, specifically because cover 1 you've got
it's a 2 and quarters.
It's 2 and a 4. Yeah, it's a great quarters beater. I think we are seeing a good bit of cover 2. I think we're seeing a lot of spot like cover 2. I'm assuming zone, because nobody really runs man all too often.
You said 3. You said 2 for flood. I say 3. Go ahead and run flood. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think that through, but run these concepts. And again, you're guessing, right? At these points, these are going to be concepts that are trying to beat certain coverages and do have some answers to other coverages.
You build in some other answers. There's always a check down. If you get the wrong look, then you know to check it down right away or run. I don't know.
A lot of these are basically half the, like, these are concepts to like half the routes. The other half the routes you can have another concept on, right?
Right. Usually good to split the field.
Yeah.
With your concepts. I don't know, man. Now we're getting into the weeds in a way that's probably not super listenable. But
essentially,
point being, I can't look at this offense and even understand what the fuck they're trying to do. I don't understand.
Don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I don't get it. I feel like there was that point in which we were seeing wrinkles and getting huge plays off of it, but they're wrinkles off of shit that I'm like, all right, cool, that was worked. You were really setting that up. I don't know what you just ran, right? Because this isn't a typical thing. Like the deep shot against the Jaguars that we took off of, where we showed the bubble screen, pump the Then showed another wrinkle that a lot of teams do off of it, and then hit the deep ball. So he looks off the safety and he hits the deep ball to, I believe it was
Come on,
DJ
yeah, yeah.
Moore. Or was it Komet? It was Komet, sorry. That one was great play, but the wrinkle there is not a rock concept. It was an additional, it was basically boutique,
More
right?
window
At that
dressing.
point. Yes.
Yes.
Can we please? I see that and I'm like, cool, that's smart, but that can't be everything. It just can't be. And I feel like the other stuff we're seeing a lot of stick nod and we're seeing a lot of all curls. Saw a lot of that with Nagy.
Way too much old curls. I don't know where all this all curls is coming from all of a sudden.
So I get that we've got that stuff. That's not an NFL offense. It's not an NFL passing offense.
I do
And
say now I want this is maybe not worth stopping down for. I do think that 3rd and 10 play where Caleb ultimately rolls out and does nothing, that might have been flood now that I'm thinking about it. But it still doesn't happen often enough.
it may have been, I mean, I've watched a ton of like JTO stuff. If it was flood, I would remember most of these,
We'll
right?
you'll watch
Backtrack on
JTO. I probably will not. And also don't really want to shout out JTO that
I should
often. But we'll talk about that on the next one. I think personally, we've probably said about everything we need to say,
yeah.
unless you got anything else.
I mean, no, I just they've got to make they we can't go into next week with we at least cannot go into next week with Waldron pulling the place. We need to see something change.
I'm
Just
pretty confident something will
specifically,
change. I don't think
yeah,
it'll make any difference. I mean, I guess by default it has to make a difference. It basically cannot get worse. I don't
can't.
think.
And I
Um,
don't know if Luce has lost the defensive side of the locker room. I would say that the offensive side, Waldron's at least lost the trust in. I think that's been evident, and I think today's a continuation of that. I don't know. So they have to at this point. They have to.
yeah. Well, this is why I don't record on Sundays. Now I'm depressed. Can we
It's
get the fuck
okay.
out of here? Can we get the fuck
All
out of
right.
here?
Yeah, we can. Anyway, uh, that's Kev. It's Adam. Thank you for sliding into Virginia's DMs.
Bye.